I thought I was signing a contract to save my family's business. I didn't realize I was signing a deed to my own soul. Vander Thorne is the coldest billionaire in Manhattan, and he just bought 6 months of my life. The contract says no touching, but the way he looks at me when the cameras are off, that isn't business. That's a deadly obsession. And tonight, he's tired of following the rules. The smell of sawdust and old varnish is the only thing that usually keeps my head straight. My workshop is my sanctuary, or at least it was, until the banks started sending letters in bright red envelopes. My family's legacy, a 3-generation architectural restoration firm, was crumbling. I needed a miracle, or I needed to get out. I didn't get a miracle. I got Vander Thorne. The door to my shop creaked open, and the atmosphere changed instantly. The air grew heavy, charged with the kind of electricity that only comes with extreme wealth and even more extreme power. I didn't even have to look up to know he was there. Vander Thorne didn't just walk into rooms, he conquered them. Mr. Vance. His voice was like velvet over gravel, deep, smooth, and dangerous. I looked up from the mahogany desk I was sanding. Vander stood there in a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than my entire inventory. He was a protective alpha male in every sense, broad-shouldered with eyes as cold as a winter morning in the city. "Mr. Thorne," I replied, wiping my hands on my apron. "I don't remember having an appointment with the man who owns half of Manhattan." "I don't make appointments. I make offers." He stepped closer, his gaze sweeping over my shop with a clinical coldness. "Your debt is $4 million. Your assets are negligible. By the end of the month, you'll be on the street." I felt a flash of heat in my chest. "If you came here to gloat, you're wasting your time." "I came here to give you a choice." He pulled a thick, leather-bound folder from his briefcase and set it on my workbench. "I am in the middle of a merger with the Sterling Group. They value traditional family values. I need a partner, someone stable, someone who doesn't come from the socialite circuit." I frowned. "You want me to be your fake boyfriend?" "I want you to be my partner for 6 months. You will move into my penthouse. You will attend every gala, every dinner, every board meeting. In exchange, I pay off your debt, restore your family's firm, and give you a $10 million parting gift when the contract ends." I looked at the folder. It felt like looking at a deal with the devil. "And the catch?" Vander leaned in, his face inches from mine. I could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and expensive cigars. "The catch is that for 6 months, you belong to me. Your time, your image, and your loyalty. There is a strict no-touching clause to protect your reputation, but you will be by my side at all times." I should have said no. I should have kicked him out. But as I looked at the red envelopes on my desk, I picked up the pen. The penthouse was a glass and steel fortress in the clouds. It was beautiful, but it felt like a prison. "These are your quarters," Vander said, leading me to a suite that was larger than my entire workshop. "My staff has already moved your essentials. We have a dinner tonight with the Sterling board. My tailor will be here in 10 minutes. "You don't waste time, do you?" I asked, feeling out of place in my worn jeans against his marble floors. Vander stopped and turned to me. The no-touching clause was supposed to be a safety net, but as he stepped into my personal space, I felt more exposed than ever. He reached out, his hand hovering just an inch from my shoulder, as if he was fighting the urge to grab me. "Time is the only thing I can't buy more of, Elias," he whispered. "Don't make me regret choosing you." "Why did you choose me, Vander? There are 1,000 men who would kill for this deal." His eyes darkened, a flash of something primal crossing his face. It wasn't business. It was his deadly obsession. "Because you're the only thing in this city that isn't for sale, and I've always wanted to see what it takes to break someone like you." He turned and walked away, leaving me shivering in the center of the room. I had signed the contract to save my workshop, but as I watched him walk away, I realized I might have just sold my soul to a man who wouldn't be satisfied until he owned every part of me. Living with Vander Thorne was like living inside a beautiful high-tech cage. 2 weeks into the contract and the rhythm was set. Breakfast in silence, a day spent in his shadow at boardrooms where he moved billions with a nod, and nights spent at galas where I was the trophy on his arm. But the no-touching clause, Clause 4.2, was becoming a joke. Vander didn't touch my skin, but he touched everything else. He'd adjust my tie, his knuckles grazing my throat just a second too long. He'd place his hand on the small of my back, guiding me through crowds, the heat of his palms searing through my suit jacket. He was a protective alpha male, marking his territory without ever actually breaking the rules. "You're quiet tonight," Vander said. We were in the back of his Maybach, heading back from a gala for the Sterling Group. The city lights flickered across his sharp features, making him look like a statue carved from obsidian. "I'm tired of the act, Vander," I sighed, leaning my head against the cool leather seat. "The fake smiles, the scripted answers. Everyone thinks we're in love. Do you ever feel guilty about lying to the world?" Vander turned to me. The space in the car felt suddenly very small. "I don't lie, Elias. I manage perceptions. There's a difference." "Is there? You bought a boyfriend because you were too cold to find a real one." I expected him to snap. I expected the billionaire's cold fury. Instead, he lunged. He didn't hit me, he pinned me. In one fluid motion, he moved across the seat, his large body crowding mine, his hands slamming into the leather on either side of my head. His eyes weren't icy anymore. They were burning. This was his deadly obsession breaking through the cracks. "You think I'm cold?" he growled, his breath hot against my lips. "You think this is an act? I've watched you for 2 years, Elias, long before your workshop started failing. I knew your debt before you did. I waited for the moment you'd have nowhere else to turn." My heart stopped. You planned this?" "I wanted you," he whispered, his voice dropping to a dangerous register that sent shivers down my spine. "And I don't let anything I want slip through my fingers. The contract wasn't about a merger. The contract was about getting you behind my doors where no one else could touch you." He broke the clause. His hand moved from the seat to my neck, his thumb pressing firmly against my pulse point. It wasn't a gentle touch, it was possessive. It was the touch of a man who had finally claimed his prize. "Vander," I breathed, my hands coming up to rest on his chest. I should have pushed him away, but the intensity in his gaze was a magnetic pull I couldn't resist. "The contract, Clause 4.2. "To hell with the contract," he muttered. He leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a ghost of a kiss that promised total ruin. But just as the tension reached a breaking point, the car screeched to a halt. The privacy glass slid down. "Mr. Thorne, we have a problem," his head of security said, his voice urgent. "The Sterling Group found out about the debt payoff. They're calling it corporate bribery. There are reporters at the penthouse." Vander pulled back, the mask of the ruthless CEO slamming back into place instantly. But his eyes lingered on mine for 1 second longer, long enough for me to see the truth. I wasn't just a fake partner. I was his prey. And the no-touching clause was the only thing that had been keeping me safe from the fire in his soul. The scandal broke like a tidal wave. By morning, my face was on every tabloid, labeled as the billionaire's paid pet. The Sterling merger was dead in the water, and Vander's board of directors was screaming for blood. I sat in the middle of the massive living room, watching the sun rise over a city that now hated me. Vander was in his office, his voice low and cold as he tore into his lawyers. I looked down at the contract on the marble coffee table. 6 months. $10 million. My family's legacy saved. It was everything I wanted. So why did I feel like I was losing everything? The office door swung open. Vander walked out, his tie loosened, his hair a mess for the first time since I'd met him. He looked at me, and for a split second, the protective alpha male looked human. "The lawyers have prepared an exit strategy," he said, his voice flat. "We'll claim the contract was a fabrication by a disgruntled employee. I'll pay you the full $10 million today. You can go back to your shop, Elias. You're free." "Free?" I stood up, the anger finally bubbling over. "You spent 2 years orchestrating my ruin just so you could play the hero, and now that it's messy, you're just throwing money at me and telling me to leave?" Vander stepped toward me, his jaw tight. "I'm giving you what you signed for. I'm giving you your life back." "I don't want the life I had," I shouted. "That life didn't have you in it." The silence that followed was deafening. Vander froze, his eyes searching mine with a desperate intensity. "I hated you for what you did," I whispered, stepping into his space. "I hated the control and the manipulation, but then I saw the way you looked at me when the cameras weren't watching. I felt the way your hand shook when you touched my neck in the car. You didn't buy a partner, Vander. You bought a mirror, and you're terrified of what you see." Vander reached out, his fingers tangling in my hair, pulling me toward him until our breaths mingled. His deadly obsession wasn't gone, it had just evolved. "I don't know how to do this, Elias. I know how to win, and I know how to own. I don't know how to stay." "Then learn," I said, reaching up to cup his face. "Tear up the contract. No more clauses, no more payments. If you want me, you have to earn me, every single day." Vander didn't hesitate. He grabbed the leather-bound folder from the table and ripped it down the center, the sound of tearing paper echoing through the penthouse. He threw the pieces to the floor and pulled me into a kiss that felt like a beginning and an ending all at once. 1 year later, the workshop was quiet, except for the soft sound of a chisel against oak. The smell of sawdust was back, but it wasn't lonely anymore. A shadow fell over my workbench. I didn't have to look up. I knew the scent of sandalwood and power anywhere. "You're late for dinner," I said, a smile tugging at my lips. Vander leaned against the doorframe, wearing a casual sweater and jeans, a far cry from the 3-piece suits of a year ago. He walked over and wrapped his arms around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "The board meeting ran late," he murmured, his grip possessive but gentle. "They're still trying to understand why I'm investing so much in architectural restoration firms." "And what did you tell them?" He turned me around in his arms, his eyes soft with a genuine warmth I once thought impossible. "I told them I'm investing in the only thing that ever managed to beat me." He kissed me, a deep, slow heat that reminded me of how far we'd come. The contract was gone, the no-touching clause was a distant memory, and the golden cage had been replaced by a home. I wasn't his prisoner, and he wasn't my owner. We were just two people who realized that some things, the best things, can never be bought. The city lights of Manhattan stretched out below us like a sea of fallen stars. A year ago, I thought this view was a taunt, a reminder of everything I didn't have and everything Vander Thorne could buy. But tonight, as I stood on the balcony of the penthouse, the air felt different. It didn't feel like a cage anymore. It felt like home. Vander stepped out from the shadows of the living room. He walked toward me with that same predatory grace, but when he reached me, he didn't pin me to the rail. He simply took my hand. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his voice a low rumble that still made my skin tingle. "I was thinking about the first day," I admitted, looking at our joined hands. "About how much I hated you for that folder, for the way you thought you could just purchase a piece of my soul." Vander pulled me closer, his arm wrapping around my waist with a possessive warmth that had become my favorite anchor. I didn't want to purchase it, Elias. I wanted to protect it. I just didn't know how to ask for a heart without offering a contract first. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn piece of paper. My breath hitched. It was the corner of the contract, the part with my signature, the only piece he hadn't thrown away the day he tore it up. "I keep this," Vander whispered, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that burned brighter than the city lights, to remind me of the man who was brave enough to sign his life away for his family, and the man who was even braver to stay when the money was gone. I leaned my forehead against his, closing my eyes. "The 6 months are long over, Vander." "Good," he murmured, his lips brushing against mine, "because I've decided to add a new clause, one that never expires, one that says you're mine and I'm yours until the stars below us go dark." As he kissed me, I realized that the best things in life aren't found in the fine print. They're found in the moments between the words, in the silence of a shared sunrise, and the heartbeat of a man who finally learned that the only thing worth owning is a love you're willing to set free. Elias found his home in the most unexpected place, the arms of his rival. But their story is just one of many waiting to be told here at Gay Stories Chronicles. We are a small channel with a big heart, and we are currently pushing toward a dream, 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Every time you watch, every time you comment, and every time you hit that subscribe button, you aren't just supporting a channel, you're helping us build a home for stories that celebrate love in all its forms. If you want to see more of these protective alpha males and the men who capture their hearts, please join our family today. Click that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let us know in the comments, do you believe in second chances? Thank you for listening. Your support means the world to us.